Okay, now I'm going to show you how to do a back stitch. So I'm going to just draw a couple of lines just to kind of help guide you. And if you can see on some of your fabric, like it looks like there's a line right along here. So I'm just going to do that too. If you use your sewing gauge, which is that short looking ruler, that can help you too. Okay, so remember, got my knot, and remember it's going on the back side of the fabric, right? So let's just say that I needed to hem, like my shirt or my pants. And this is how I would do it. So I'd fold it up like this, and I'd probably use some pins to help me. Oops, that would be the front of my fabric, so I need to come through the back. So I'm going to come right here and up, okay, like that. And then I'm going back down. I'm going to try to make this nice. So this is where, when I told you before about pressing it with an iron. My iron's not really on, but it's going to help flatten this out a little bit. Okay, so it's pressed. And then I'm going to go down right here. Okay, there's my first stitch. I'm going to pull that back here so that I can flatten out those stitches right there. It's kind of hard to see at this angle. Let me try it again. Okay, so there's one stitch. Now this back stitch, remember how the running stitch has these gaps? The back stitch, when you go, you're going up like you would with the running stitch, but you're going to come back to the last stitch that you did, so you're closing the gap. So there's not going to be any spaces in between the stitches. This stitch is a little bit better for hemming things because it helps ensure that your stitches are a little more supported. So again, there's my spot. I'm going to come back to the last stitch I did. I'm going to go right on top of that. That's going to make it look as even as possible. So you don't want to make stitches that are too long. You want them probably no more than like maybe 3/4 of a centimeter. Because if you have longer stitches, then it's going to make longer gaps. I mean, a long stitch really is just like a hole in your seam. Okay, so we've got a couple of stitches. I'm going to take my thumb off so you can see. So see how that's like closed? It's kind of crooked, not staying very straight. But let me do a few more. And you guys, since many of you are not really familiar with hand sewing and making stitches, you're going to want to keep looking on the back. But if you keep looking on the back, it might look straight on the back, but it's going to be crooked on the front. So just my advice would be to just keep the front side facing you and just keep poking that needle through as best you can in a straight line. So that's where, you know, drawing your line on might be kind of helpful. Now, if you draw your line on in pen, obviously it might still be there when you wash your clothing, that pen mark. But if you use something light, for instance, like a white crayon, that comes off when you wash it. Not only that, but if you were to iron over that white crayon, it melts so you can't even see it. Okay, so that's your back stitch. So remember, if these were my pants or my shirt and I wanted to shorten the length of the pants right on the edge where, you know, the end of the bottom of the legs, then I could just do that. I could just roll it under like that and then sew a stitch right across there, and that would get it shortened. So see that? And it's like you got a brand new pair of pants. So same thing with finishing it. You'd go through the stitch, make that loop, and then go through the loop to tie off the knot. through the loop, go through a stitch, through the loop, pull, ties the knot. And then I'm going to cut it as close as possible to the fabric so we don't have strings hanging out all over the place. See how much uglier that looks back there? But because that's the back, nobody's going to see it. Or the inside, it looks much nicer on that side. Okay, so that's your back stitch.